And there have been a lot of pioneers in the world. A lot of pioneers have gone before us. And honestly, there's no need to always reinvent the wheel. Like, learn. Learn from people who've gone before you. Learn. You don't have to come up with every answer on your own. If you try to come up with every answer on your own, it's going to take you way longer than it should. Part of adding impact to one another is learning from one another and growing, because we are allowing people to have voice in our life. And it's awesome the way that God does that. But to stand in the path of a sinner, the word sinner, like to sin, is to miss the mark. It's to not be on God's path. And when you take a stand, what it means is that you have decided that this is how you're going to do something. And so when you take a stand in the path of a sinner, all that really means is that the mentors in your life, the ones that you are following, were missing the mark. And you have options. You don't have to follow the entrepreneurial gurus of the day. Just because they're on social media, just because they are proclaiming to be billionaires or successful or whatever, don't mean you got to drink their Kool-Aid. There are more than one way to achieve, and walk in that kind of prosperity. You don't have to follow the patterns of those who are missing the mark. And again, just because you throw a Christian sticker on that sucker, don't mean that it's rooted in kingdom principles. Come on, y'all. We got to get smart here. I love me a master class, and I love learning, and I want to grow, but just because someone says that they're a believer, it doesn't mean that it's rooted in heaven. Greed is greed. If money's the goal, you might be missing the mark. I saw people like twitching out there right now. Come on. This is, I guess, where the sermon goes awry here, right? Everybody's happy until I get to this point. Let's kick over some sacred cows. I was in Thailand, and I was talking to a school of children who were all rescued out of human trafficking. And they were taking them through a sort of business class. They're trying to teach them principles and how to build their life, because these kids had never had any kind of patterns in their life, right? And so one of the ways that they do is like through the game Monopoly. You know, you can learn some business principles, buying, selling, all that kind of stuff, right? And so we're walking through it, and you know, the art of making a deal, and the coercing, and then trying to convince, and you can get ahead because the goal, after all, is to win. And so I paused the process, and I just challenged them a little bit. I said, hey, if a deal makes you money, does that mean that God was the originator of it? There's a difference between a good business decision and a God decision. And God isn't always concerned about the bottom line, because the goal might not be for you to win at the wealth game. Maybe it's about something bigger than that. Are you alive? But if you're playing by the world's game, you'll be fixated on achievement, and you may miss the whole point that God has you in the first place. 1 Corinthians 11:1 says this. This is Paul talking to the church of Corinth. He says, I want you to pattern your life after me, just as I have patterned my life after Christ. So Paul is saying to the church of Corinth, I want you to follow me, do what I'm doing. Learn from me. Follow the path. I laid it out for you. Somebody else went down the path. You don't have to figure it all on your own. You can follow me, right? Mentors, important in life, and you should have some. And I want to tell you that God has surrounded you with amazing people in this congregation, many of who could speak into your life and could help you immensely, like for real. When you are choosing to open your heart up and receive input and counsel and follow the path of somebody, it's not difficult to look for the fruit. You'll know a tree by its fruit. So look, you tell me, did their kids love Jesus? Or did their kids turn out good? Well, then why are you listening to their parenting advice? Boom, sacred cow, kicked over. Is their marriage thriving? I mean, do they like each other? Well, then is that really the person you want premarital counseling you? Okay. Christine, sometimes when I sing, I noticed I don't always hit the right key. And I try. And so I have this vocal coach who's tone deaf. Could you tell me if they're saying the correct things to me? Should I, if I am trying to learn a skill, if I'm trying to perfect something, I should look at the outcome of what takes place. Right? And so it would probably be better for me to hear from someone like Christine, who is amazing in singing and has a heart after God, and right? Is an incredible gift to the body, and I could learn how to lead worship. I could do all these things by following a leadership of someone like this, versus, right, somebody who is missing the mark. It was yesterday, I was pondering, just thinking about the people who made an impact in my life. The ones that really, really man, they said something, they did something, it marked me. And I was just rehearsing it in my mind and giving thanks to the Lord, like, Jesus, thank you for that person. And I realized that all the ones that made significant contributions, they're all still walking with the Lord on fire for Jesus. Like they're for real on fire for Jesus. And I was like, oh, wow, I wonder if there's a correlation between what actually was a benefit to my life and led to long-term fruit and a person who's authentically actually doing it and hitting the mark. You know, you and I have the opportunity to hear from lots of people. And we encourage you, man, eat, spit out the bones. Not everybody's perfect. I mean, goodness gracious. I go back and listen to some of my sermons. I disagree with myself. Right? Like, you're not always going to hit the mark. And perfection's not the goal. Right? And so don't be offended because someone messed up or someone didn't get everything right or whatever. Look at the fruit. Look at the fruit of someone's life. That's how you know if it's someone worth following. Are you alive?